This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option. Paul Catalina, Garrett Ross. You see Garrett there. Sometimes he's just a disembodied voice.
Yes.
And you may wonder, like, is Garrett a real person or is he like Casper the Ghost and we're some sort of necromancers that have brought him back here? That's not the case. He's a real person. There you see him right there on camera. Because, you know, the way it works in the studio is the way that we have this set up. It's a little challenging.
There are a few, we only have so many options to work with when it comes to camera
So,
angles.
like, eventually we'll get it all, like, changed where, like, we'll probably be in the round where it'll be like I wanted like the Super Bowl where they take that 360 degree shot.
Yeah, I like that.
That's what the goal is. But anyway, there's several things going on in college football, and of course we'll talk about the NFL playoffs in the last segment at Garrett as we started to do. It was a rough weekend for me college basketball wise.
Yes.
Not personally, Florida State is on an absolute tear, so that's been fun to watch. But I went from watching Texas beat Baylor at the buzzer, which was one hell of a game.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a game, and Baylor caught Texas at the absolute wrong time.
I mean, we all were talking about that on Friday.
Yeah.
Like, you knew it was coming.
After that horns down thing happened, it's like if you're Baylor, you're like, of all the times for like a controversy that's going to kind of galvanize them at least for a day.
Like, you could have at least had that at home. Like, you had to go to Austin.
You had to go to the brand new fantastic Moody Center.
That's pretty dope.
You had to go do that. And I'll tell you, I don't think most people in Austin would mind me saying this. I hated the Frank Irwin Center. It was terrible. I had to do several high school basketball games there. Mm-hmm. I covered some games there. I went to a concert there once. It just was.
I never stepped a foot in there.
Yeah.
I never had opportunity to go to the Frank Irwin. I've always heard it was better for concerts, though. That's kind of how it was built, was a concert arena.
Yeah. So Texas played with a lot of effort for the first time in a long time. And Baylor lost. Like, it was that was tough to watch as a person who doesn't like anything that Texas does ever. Mm-hmm. And then also a big, supporter of Coach Drew and the guys. I'm not like homerish for Baylor programs.
Correct.
Necessarily. Yeah. Like, we support them because they support, like, it's a symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
When they do well, we do well. But I've known Coach Drew for a very, very long time. I've known all those coaches, Coach Tang that's gone now, and Coach Driscoll, and Coach McCaslin and Paul Mills, that are all they're all fantastic human beings. So I have all these teams that I root for now. Like, I'm super into Wichita State now, and look, gung ho for Tech basketball because of Grant. I hope they do really well. Kansas State is a hard one for me to say. I'm saying it here on this podcast because I think Amanda's not watching. But and we've had the argument before. Like, yes, I'm happy for Kansas State because I love Jerome Tang so much.
As you should be.
So it's hard to watch people that I have so much respect for lose. But look, it's just one. And then Kansas hauls off and loses to the worst team in the Big 12. And I was like, well, there goes my Saturday. That's it.
Yeah, so you sent the text out, and I was like, what the hell? It was like the bat signal. So I went on Twitter, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, God, they cannot do this again. So that's what, 3 – so you lose to UCF. Now you go on the road, lose to West Virginia, and you get beat. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, it just wasn't. Look, at least they had a win in the middle there. They had a win. They beat Oklahoma State really badly. But, it just wasn't. It just wasn't great. It wasn't great, but, we're through it. We're on to the next thing. There's Big Monday tonight. We'll see what happens, which I believe is Texas Tech, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah. So here I am saying, like,
pump it up.
Yeah. I'm going to have to pretend like I've never heard of Grant McCaslin and see how long that lasts for me. Before
You're going to get fed all week, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, Cincinnati. I'm sorry. It's Cincinnati. Okay. So, but yeah, and it's at home. It's at the Fog. So anyway, that was that. Garrett, I do want to talk about something that has nothing to do with sports for a minute. Okay. I told you this story on Friday when I came in, and I do want the opinion of the chat room on this.
Oh, okay.
So I told you on Thursday night I ran to the grocery store to get a couple quick things.
Yeah, is this the car?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I pull into the parking lot. It was very busy. You know, it's 6:30 on a Thursday. Like, you know, people are doing what I'm doing. Like, I don't think anybody's doing their full shop. But
you got to make a mad dash.
But
just
like,
grab
you got to
what's
get
for the night.
I needed milk and eggs and like I needed the basics. Like I'm out of the basics. My wife was out of town last week, so I go and I park, and the car next to me is a very beat up old Ford Taurus. And it is not over the line, but it is as close to the line as you can possibly get. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just right there. And so I'm like, you know, look, and we've look, many people in the chat room have come in and gone and made comments and observations about my weight. I understand. I'm a husky boy, a gravy boy.
A gravy boy.
Yes, I'm a gravy boy. Like, I get it. That's where I am in my life right now. Maybe one day it'll change, but right now, this is where I am. Nothing happens overnight. So I know that I'm going to have to, like, open the door slightly and then, like, as much as I can, like, you know, fold myself in. Right. You know, squeeze in. I don't know if you ever saw X-Men 3. There was like a mutant that went to the meeting. He was like a fat guy, and then he made himself a skinny guy. I was going to have to do that. But then I couldn't figure out in that movie, like, why would you ever walk around like that if you could just be shredded?
Right, just keep
you know,
it
unless
keep it
you're
at all
being
times.
incognito, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, mutant and all. But, like, if you could just be, if your whole mutant thing was being like a fat guy and then a skinny guy, like, just be shredded. Like, just be shredded. Anyhow. That's neither here nor there. So I got out and I did slightly like tap the door. I knew it was going to happen, but I was very careful. I was holding the door to make sure it didn't just fly open. It was a little bit windy. And so as I'm walking away, I hear, hey, you could at least say you're sorry. And so I turn around and it's this goth chick in the car. I mean, and like picture goth chick, like black hair, weird hat, all black clothes, lip ring, you know, like all the things that you would picture. And very pale. Like, honestly, like she'd given blood every day for a month, pale. And so I was like, oh, I'm sorry. She's like, well, I said, I know it like dinged it, but it didn't really. I mean, I can show you. It's not that big a deal. And she's like, well, you did, and that was very rude. And I was like, well, I'm just telling you, you are as close to the line as you can get without getting over it. And she's like, well, I'm within the parking space. And I was like, yeah, but you're still by the line. So like this is going like whether it was me or somebody else, it was probably going to happen. I'm just warning you.
It was inevitable.
And then she's like, well, I mean, you could at least apologize. I'm like, well, I did. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to stand here and do this. So I went through, like rushed through because I'm like, Wednesday Addams is going to key my car.
Oh,
like,
definitely. Yes, definitely.
That's going to happen. And then I started to feel guilty because I was like, well, maybe I was a little bit harsh to her. Like I did ding her car. Like, you know, I could have been a little bit better. I was a little bit short with her because when I get yelled at to apologize for something, I'm not going to respond with like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Please. So I go back and the car parked next to me is like a Ford Expedition, a gigantic car.
Yeah.
Parked within the lines, perfect parking job by whoever the white Expedition was. Congratulations to you if you're watching this and you know who you are.
You know who you are.
But I was able to open the car fully and all that. And I was like, no, screw her. So was I in the wrong at all?
No, I mean, no. You bumped it. You were as careful as possible. No, I mean, it's one of those things where you're probably looking for something. You're looking for a reason to engage. Like, I mean, I don't see any problem with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad. I just needed some verification from that, you know, but I was convinced that, like, I was going to come out to, like...
That's what, see, I would have been tempted
a
to...
pentagram
yeah,
carved into my hood.
I might have just went and, like, moved the car.
Yeah.
Just like, I do not want to... I've had, like, I've had cars keyed. I don't want... no.
Yeah, no, I just... And, like, I've been like, well, that was that.
Yeah.
So... but anyway, our lead topic today, though, the big topic, and the big college football story is Ohio State this week. So Ryan Day woke up a couple weeks ago on a Tuesday morning to what is the worst day you could imagine in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes.
And I cannot stress enough Like, there are not many things that would make the collective city of Columbus, Ohio, more upset, and really maybe even most of the state of Ohio.
Definitely think he can throw the state in.
But like most of the state, but especially like his immediate circumference. Mm-hmm. Now, he might have been at the coaches conference, but like he still woke up and was going to have to go back to Columbus. And Michigan was the national champions. Michigan was also the national champions in a year where they had gotten caught doing some things that were untoward. Mm-hmm. So that adds a little bit of hot sauce to this in that, you know, Michigan was stealing signals and they, like, really nothing happened to them. Like, everything went through. A couple of players got some free tattoos, and it was like a crime, right?
Yes.
So, like, I'm just putting myself in the shoes of an Ohio State fan. I'm not trying to say, like, well, one is better. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not here to be judge and jury. Nobody's given me that job. Because if I, like, believe me, they like a lot of the stuff that's like illegal in college football, I'd be like, well, nobody's getting hurt, so who gives a crap? But like that would have been my thing. It's like, okay, who gets hurt from this? And like, well, literally no one. I'm like, well, then it's not a rule. Let's not worry about it.
Yeah.
Let's worry on the stuff that's like
Yeah.
actual cheating, actual things, actual problems. But there's a lot of stuff where you're like, well, no one really gets hurt here. And then most of the time it's like no one gets hurt, but like the university's like, yeah, but we can't, you know, bilk people for all this money. Like, well, you get hurt, but no one cares.
Right.
Yeah. You're not really someone I'm worried about hurting here in this. You're going to win no matter what.
Yes.
You're just not winning by the score that you thought you would. It's like when your team only wins by 3, and you're like, well, you should have won by 30, and you're like, well, you won, so
just take the dub. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But he woke up to that, and I know that everywhere that, you know, you go into the office, you're over by a coffee machine, and how you doing, Steve? How do you think, Carl? How are we all doing? Like, I promise that most office buildings were pretty maudlin that day. Like, it was really just kind of a sad day. Mm-hmm. And people were like, God, Michigan, stupid Michigan. You know, like, they beat us and they won. Like, you know, Alabama almost got them. You know, there was a time where I thought maybe Washington would come back in the game. Oh, no, it didn't happen. Harbaugh wins. It's got to, like, it's just got to eat you alive. So then what he does, and it took a second because he sent his quarterback into the portal and didn't really seem to have a plan for a little bit.
Right.
But they went and got Will Howard, and that was kind of the first little thing. Like, okay, all right, well, I don't know how much better that is than Kyle McCord, but it's probably a little better. He's won more. He's like, he's really gritty.
You can
like
make the argument, yeah.
You would want Will Howard on your team. Like, say for like, you know, a few quarterbacks in the country, most people would trade him for Will Howard. You know, like maybe 10 guys that you'd be like, well, if I have this guy, I don't want Will Howard.
Right.
But, I mean, that's 10 schools, you know. And so they're just the lucky ones right now. So he goes and gets Will Howard. Then, a few days later, Nick Saban retires. And he was going to get Seth McLaughlin anyway because Seth McLaughlin had gone to the portal and had a rough game against Michigan, but now he's going to go to Ohio State, so he at least guarantees he can maybe make up for that in his life.
Right.
But had a rough game against Michigan. He's transferred there, which is a good pickup for them. He's an NFL player. He had a bad couple weeks with Alabama, but he needed a new. Okay, so that's a good pickup. Then this last week, he picks up Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs, 2 of the best 10 players in the portal, the number 1 player in the portal for sure in Caleb Downs, the best running back in the portal in Quinshon Judkins, and then the number 1 quarterback decides he doesn't want to be at Alabama anymore because he wants to be somewhere else. And in spite of him hiring Bill O'Brien, a move I don't think was very good, he went out and got this guy to add into a stable of young quarterbacks and Will Howard that's pretty damn good. With Lincoln Kleinholtz, Aaron Noland, and him, they're going to have really interesting battles. Now, I would say of those 3, only one of them is going to stay. But, and like, I'm sure Devin Brown's probably on his way out the door.
I would think he's the odd man out, yeah.
He's going to be the first odd man out. There'll be a couple of odd men out. But to get Julian Sayin in there to respond to Michigan winning, like, that is a hell of a week of work that he's done. And look, he brought in an NFL offensive coordinator. I'm just on the fence about where Bill O'Brien really is.
No, see,
at this point in his career.
I didn't look. Yeah, when that came down, that Bill O'Brien was going to be hired, I wasn't really sold on it because we've seen what he brings. Like he's good. You can win with Bill O'Brien, but once it gets to like playoffs or championship caliber, he finds ways to mess up, and he's just not ever able to get a win. So I was kind of surprised when Ohio State went that route. But at the same time, like there wasn't exactly that many great options out there. I think this is one where you bring somebody in with the experience, you get stable for 1 year, see how it goes, and then go from there. But the more I thought about it, because what last week when Sayan hit the portal, there was all the news about everywhere he could go, and one thing that kept coming up was his relationship with Bill O'Brien, and I thought that was kind of weird. But I'm wondering the more of that I think about it with how that goes down with Bill O'Brien going up there and getting that job. I wonder if he was used saying as a pitch, saying, okay, you can get me, but I'm also going to bring this quarterback with me. And if that helped him land that job, because other than that, I mean, it was a good hire, but it wasn't splashy per se.
No, it wasn't splashy, and it's been kind of, it's a little like.
But you know what you're going to get.
He's a retread. Bill O'Brien is a retread. But if Julian Sayin likes Bill O'Brien, then that's a good hire.
That's it, yes.
Like, that's a good hire. And they still have Brian Hartline there, who's the fantastic recruiter.
The
receiver guru. They're bringing back, and here's the other thing. Those are just the people he brought in.
Yeah.
They're keeping Travion Henderson. They're keeping Emeka Ibuka. They brought in a tight end from Ohio that's pretty good to replace Cade Stover. So they lose Michael Hall on defense. They lose Denzel Burke on defense. They lose Marvin Harrison. They lose Cade Stover, maybe an offensive lineman that I'm not thinking about. But really, from a team that was 10-2 in the regular season last year, and that were 10-3 overall, but 10-2 in the regular season. No, 11-1. Mm-hmm. They were 11-1, right?
Because they only lost to Michigan.
Yeah, they only lost to Michigan. So, they're an 11-1 team in the regular season. Only lost to Michigan, then lost the bowl game. So, they're an 11-2 team. So, on an 11-2 team, he improved at quarterback, theoretically. He definitely improved at running back and just adding the depth. As a matter of fact, the guy who was his starter is probably the backup now to Quinshon Judkins and is fine with it.
Yes.
Because of the way that running backs are kind of seen now. So they've got that going for them. Maybe Travion Henderson leaves after spring.
I think they're going to rotate.
But I think they're going to roll with it. I think he's kind of. I don't know if they would have gotten Quinshon Judkins or gone all in if they thought they were going to lose Travion Henderson because that was the plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think they sold it kind of like looking at, okay, you look at what Michigan was able to do with Edwards and with Corum. We can do the exact same thing if you're able to. So that's what you tell Quinshon, right? And that's what your conversation with Travion is like. We're going to bring him in, but we're going to help you and take some of the pressure off of you, alleviate it, and you're going to be more fresh when you hit the field. Yeah, hell yeah, that was an easy sell.
Yeah, so that's why that was the thing. It's like we're trying to prolong both of your careers here.
Yeah.
You're going to be NFL
Especially
running backs.
NFL, yeah, because
you're going to be NFL running backs. Quinshon can't leave. Travion Henderson could have left this year. He could have left and gone to the league, but it wasn't his time. As far as where he was going to the draft pick. Quinshon Judkins, if he left right now, would be probably the first or second running back taken. But he can't because he's a true sophomore. So he had to play another year. So he's going, and I'm still surprised he went there just given what Ole Miss is doing, but one of them is proven, the other one is not. So I get it. And plus, I'm sure he's gotten a nice NIL bump.
I'm pretty sure that was probably, the NIL bump, and I'm pretty sure that was part of the sales pitch. Great, Ole Miss is doing what they can. They're going to be in the mix. Their path is still more difficult. Come here. We should run the Big Ten, and you have a better opportunity of making the play. I mean, they're going to make the playoff. Both teams should make the playoff, but Ohio State has a better chance of making the championship game than Ole Miss would.
Yeah, and so that's not even to say, okay, who are the wide receivers that are going to pop up that are studs that they have,
Correct.
Those kind of things. But they're bringing back almost the entire defense. Really,
the best defensive lineman's coming back.
Yeah, the best defensive lineman's coming back. The second best defensive lineman's coming back.
Their secondary is going to be loaded.
They are losing two linebackers. They're losing Tommy Eichenberg, who's a really good player, and Steele Chambers, who's a good player. I think they're losing Steele Chambers. But they're losing Tommy Eichenberg. They're losing Denzel Burke, but they're bringing back a lot of people. I'm sure, they're bringing in, they're losing Denzel Burke at corner, but they're bringing in Caleb Downs at safety. So you tell me,
I'll take that trade.
What's okay, I'm losing this, but I'm getting the best player available to me in the portal. And that's amazing. in that defense, he'll do really, really well. Like that was, I mean, his choices were Ohio State and Georgia, so he was going to go somewhere, play 2 years, and be a first-round draft pick. Caleb Downs going there, like that really changes everything. And here's the deal about Michigan. For right now, Michigan is a little stuck in neutral because they don't, and I'm just comparing it to Ohio State, they are a little stuck in neutral because they're not sure if Jim Harbaugh is going to be back or not. Now, I'm sure that they think just like we do, and maybe more optimistic because they know, but Jim Harbaugh's meeting with the Chargers again this week. I think today. And I think after that happens, Jim Harbaugh is going to be the coach of the Chargers. But Michigan is stuck in neutral because they've got to decide what they're going to do at head coach. And, probably the best thing to do to keep their roster together.
Just give it to Sharon Moore.
And give it to Sharon Moore, who I believe earned it this year.
He definitely earned it.
Yeah, definitely earned it. And so, that would be – and look, you can always – a couple years, if it's not working out, you can always make a change.
But I think you definitely need to give him a shot.
I think you need to give him a shot. Absolutely. He's ready to be a head coach. Like he was able to navigate through all this on game days on the hardest part of their schedule too, against Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State were the 3 hard games they played in the regular season. So it wasn't like early in the season where they're like, yeah, we'll suspend him.
Right.
Yeah. We're going to have 2 different head coaches in one game. One's going to do a half and the other's going to do a half. Yeah, sure. Whatever. Yeah. He's suspended. Ha, ha, ha.
Yes.
These guys can handle it. You know what? In the fourth quarter, we're just going to pick a random guy. We're going to pick the drunkest guy that we can find, and he's just going to call plays.
Run the ball.
Yeah. If his shirt's off, he's coming down here. If he's painted and it's falling off, peeling, that's the guy who's going to call plays. We're not worried about this game at all. Then, we'll even let him, we'll crowdsource a play. We'll put it up on the big screen. Should we run to the left or the right? And then if this side of the stadium say left and this one say right, just the louder one goes.
That's how the playing field.
Yeah.
Huh?
But Sharon Moore had to be the head coach on game days without Jim Harbaugh during their 3 hardest games and navigated through a Penn State game against one of the best defenses in the country where they didn't throw a pass in the second half because J.J. McCarthy was banged up, and then they didn't even need to.
They didn't have to.
They didn't even have to. Then a Maryland game that got a little dicey for a second because Maryland had the most prolific offense they'd seen. And then the rivalry game, the game, he navigated through that. So I think that is as good of an audition as you can get. And so, but they're still in a holding pattern. And they're losing a bunch of guys. I mean, Blake Corum's going to the league, and J.J. McCarthy's going to the league, and Roman Wilson, and
the path's going to get
Chris
more difficult.
Jenkins is going to go there, and Michael Barrett's gone, and they've got Sanistril is gone. They're all gone. They're leaving. So it's going to be tougher. And Ohio State just took all that information and doubled down and said, all right, here we go. This is our time to we've been behind the 8 ball for 3 years. They're about to lose Harbaugh probably. Let's make sure when and if that happens that we are already on the inside track to taking back over the new Big Ten, which adds 4 new teams next year.
Yeah, and especially I think the way Oregon has loaded up, they're definitely going to be the one that you got to watch out for if you're Ohio State. Obviously, Michigan is as well. But at the same time, I was surprised at this whole ordeal of hearing how throughout the process of the transfer portal and NIL, Ohio State has kind of been patient, per se, compared to other programs in the nation. They haven't really gone all in on NIL until right now. That was something that kind of surprised me, and I don't know if it's one of those where Ohio State looked at themselves in the mirror and said, we are a blue blood of blue bloods. We can get anybody we need. We don't necessarily have to play the field and the market the way some of these other programs do from NIL, and I think that kind of bit them. And then now, man, they're I think having navigated NIL the way they did and Michigan's success, they definitely realize this is our window. We have to go all in. To me, it's crazy because right now you're looking at a situation where Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, and Texas are playing on a different – and Florida State, I think you can throw in there as well, are navigating the portal and playing on a level that other people aren't. And I feel like you're going to see those 4 or 5 teams kind of be the new stables here, and everybody trying to play catch up with them. But yeah, to me, the whole thing with how Ohio State's NIL and everything has come together through all of this has been something that I thought was kind of caught me off guard.
Well, and they were it appeared a second what's the plan here,
right,
man?
Yeah.
You do know Michigan's about to be in the playoff, right? You guys didn't miss that? Like, that's what it looked like. But again, part of that is just us going like, all right, well, this guy's going here and this guy's going here. And look at this school. They're like, Louisville, who just barely missed out on winning the ACC, is like, we're going to have this guy and 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 this guy. And we're taking from Tennessee and Ole Miss and like, we're going to the SEC and plucking dudes. Mm-hmm. Like, we are absolutely going to, hit the ground running on Jeff Brom. Not nuts about their quarterback choice at Louisville, but that might be a thing we talk about in the next segment. It's like we'll look at some of these teams in the portal that have done really well, but like what Ohio State did was just like answer every question you could have.
Absolutely.
And now like the future, like when you can choose between 2 5-stars and Lincoln Kleinholz, who's a 4-star and like was like right there, you've got those 3 guys with all pretty much the same amount of eligibility remaining, and you're going to lose 2 of them. Like you're going to. That's going to happen because they're going to go somewhere where they can play. But to have that ability to compete, and the fact that Julian Sand, and like I did see one thing from Ohio State fans yesterday when they're like, Aaron Noland's not going anywhere. I'm like, well, not yet. Like eventually, Julian Sand, Aaron Noland, or
you're not keeping them two.
2 of those 3 guys are going to transfer out because that's the game now. But the fact is, they're all there and ready to compete for that, and that is a bonus to Ohio State.
So that's one thing I wanted to ask you. So as Ohio State heads into this and they start having your spring and fall practices gearing up for the year and the quarterback battle starts unfolding, given what we've seen from Will Howard, are you confident that he can win that and be the starter, or do you think one of these young and up like Aaron Noland or the Sand can get him? Like, who do you like right now? If you had to think, do you think Will Howard is good enough?
I think Will Howard's good. I think Will Howard's good enough.
Okay,
and I think Lincoln Kleinholz will be the backup next year.
Okay,
and then they'll let the other guys battle out. Now Julian Sand might be good enough to like. I mean, Julian Sand and Aaron Noland, one of those dudes might be good enough to where they wind up as the backup. But we'll see. Like, we'll see what happens out of spring. I don't know. Like, is Julian Sand going to be there in spring? I'm not totally sure on that. Like, it's pretty late in January.
I know he early enrolled at Bama, and then I don't know how all of that.
Yeah, he practiced with them for the bowl game.
Yeah, so I don't know how all that's
I don't know how all that works. Like, I don't know. We'll see. Like in spring, but like we know this on August 1st when they start practice, or July 25th or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. When they start practice in the summer, they're going to have at least 3 guys and probably 4, provided that. I'm assuming that Devin Brown transfers out after spring. I'm just going to assume that because right now the writing's on the wall that this is not going to go well for him as far as playing time goes. Now he may love being at Ohio State and that's where he's going to be, so good for him. But more than likely he's probably going to transfer out, and then we'll see. So after spring they're going to have 3 young quarterbacks and Will Howard, a guy with a ton of experience who's been through it all, leading there, and I think that's going to be great. So. I think that's really good. So I'm really kind of like changing my opinion on what Ohio State's going to be in the future. And especially like, look, Michigan was not beating Ohio State at all until Jim Harbaugh came. And no offense to Sharon Moore, he did beat Ohio State, but I mean, like, it's a different situation. But you've got to capitalize when you've got this guy who's leaving.
Yes.
Like it's – look, who did it? Like when Urban Meyer left Florida, the rest of the SEC capitalized, right? Mm-hmm. And when Urban Meyer left Ohio State, Michigan capitalized. Like that's when they're like, okay, time to pounce.
Yep.
We know that Ryan Day's good, but we feel our guy's better right now. And that's what they did. So that's the time to do it. All right, we're going to talk Denzel Burke is still in Columbus. Okay, well, I guess they don't lose Denzel Burke. I thought they did. So anyway, they're bringing back a lot of people.
Yes,
they're bringing back. They are a veteran team right now. The way I felt about Michigan last year, the only thing I have a question about is how good is Will Howard going to be? But I've seen him play. He's a good player, and he's got a ton of talent all around him, including 2 running backs who are going to take a ton of pressure off of him. So I am my early favorite for number 1 next year right now is Ohio State. Like I just think that they've got like the same way I felt about Michigan going to last year with all the experience they have coming back. They're the most veteran team, and they've added in places what they needed to a high degree. Now, Georgia's going to be there, but Ohio State and Georgia, to me, are the two best teams coming back right now.
Man, my heart is screaming Texas. When you're saying that.
Yeah, and Texas, okay.
It doesn't, but they're all on. They're so close to each other.
Yeah, and maybe between those three, it's going to be whoever's going to be Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers and Will Howard have split their 2 times against each other. So
yeah, very true.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right, when we come back, let's look at some of the teams that have loaded up in the transfer portal and where we think they're going to be and how that's going to work out for them. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
So, and we'll transition more, and I've seen the chat. They're talking a lot of Big 12 basketball today. We'll transition to more of that as the week goes on. I will say this. I'm not panicked about anybody yet because we're 4 games in or 5 games into the conference season.
Yes.
And this is how the Big 12 is.
Oh, it's insane.
Yes, Baylor probably could have won. They really should have won at Kansas State. They had that game in hand, and they let it get away from them. But they're on the road. And they really could have won at Texas had a couple things gone their way a little bit better. But honestly, they lost in double overtime on the last possession. They lost on a buzzer beater the other day. That's the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean,
again, the winner of that conference is not coming out unscathed. They're going to be quite scathed.
I would be more concerned if I was. Amanda, I hope you're not watching. I'd be more concerned if I was a Kansas fan than a Baylor fan at this point.
Yeah,
because Kansas has some terrible losses.
Yeah. But then again, they're still going to turn around and beat Kansas.
But I mean, I'm just looking at the 2 programs and the losses they have. I would be more concerned if I was a Kansas fan than a Baylor fan at this point. I feel like Baylor's just fine. They're a Sweet 16 team. And if they could make a push, maybe. But I think they are what they are. They're fine.
Yeah. So I'm on on3.com right now. And the top 5 portal teams that they have listed so far, and the only reason I think that Ohio State and Texas aren't on here is they don't have the quantity.
Okay.
There's Texas and Ohio State to me have done, in my opinion, the second and third best or third and fourth best behind Ole Miss and Louisville because of their quality over the quantity.
Right.
If I had to give you my top 5 based on quality versus quantity and all that, it would be Ole Miss, Louisville, Texas, Ohio State, and FSU. And FSU's doing what they do. They've gotten a couple guys who are going to help them and start. But Gigi Uiagalelei being one of them. But really, if you look at what they've done, they are building on these guys have extra eligibility. This is not Keon Coleman and Braden Fisk who are one and dones to help you win the conference title and, eventually get screwed. But I have to get it in once a day. But they are guys who can maybe help you longer term a little bit more.
Like a Jared Verse, per se, 2 years, couple years?
Yeah, like Jared Verse type guys who are coming up. Or, they got Jalen Brown from LSU who is just, he would have played at LSU this year more than likely, but he decided he didn't want to be there.
He'd be a better fit at Florida State. 2023
class guys who are coming in, 2022 class guys who are all about to start, but they've gotten several guys from Alabama who probably would have been starting or playing for Nick Saban, but Nick Saban's gone, so they they've got all those 5 guys. You know, Roydale Williams is a 1-year guy, but that's just like they had to need a running back. But like when I look at everybody else, like when I look at Texas, and they've got 7 transfers in, and it's Amari Niblack, Kendrick Blackshear, who that one is the one that's
we need to see that.
We need to see that one. But Silas Bolden, good.
Seen that.
Yeah. I mean, they got the best tight end in the portal. They got Silas Bolden, one of the best wide receivers in the portal. Isaiah Bond, one of the other best wide receivers in the portal. Matthew Golden, one of the other best wide receivers in the portal. And like you just leaving it at that, I could stop. You know, but then I throw in safety Andrew Makuba from Clemson, a dude. There you go. So again, while their numbers aren't super high right now, they are
every position
very
of
good.
need.
They filled most of their positions of need right now, and they have so many young guys coming up. So like they don't need to get 15 guys to the portal. They might need to get maybe a total of 10.
Well, they're doing it right because they have a perfect balance of elite recruiting and fill in the stop gaps through the transfer portal. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. No, but I do like that's how you do it. Now, there are a couple like Ole Miss we'll talk about in a second because they've got like 4 of the best JUCO players coming in as well. And they've gone pedal to the metal on the transfer portal. And as a matter of fact, really between them and Louisville, that's been like the most competition between guys, including Tyler Barron, who was committed to Ole Miss and is now going to Louisville from Tennessee. But I mean, they've got 24 players in at Ole Miss. Several of them are at Louisville. Several of them from Tennessee. Some from A&M. I mean, like they've really gone to the SEC. Day McCullough from Oklahoma goes in there. He's a Big 12 player that would have been an SEC player. Now he's an ACC player. But they've got like Penny Boone from Toledo, a big, powerful running back who's going to help them out. The only thing I'm not totally nuts about with Louisville, and I think he's a good player, but it's Tyler Shuck.
I don't like it.
Because he's not healthy. Like that's what I get why you get him because you had Jack Plummer who was an absolutely superior bus driver. But when you ran into Dennis Hopper from Speed, like he wasn't so much of a bus driver.
Right.
Like you saw like FSU handed him 2 golden opportunities to score in that game, and they just ran right through him.
Right.
Like he was not the guy to do it. Now Tyler Shuck could have probably gotten some of that done because he's a lot more athletic than Jack Plummer. The problem is that athleticism means diddly poo when you are not playing.
Yes,
and that's why I was surprised about that one a little bit. Now it's not like quarterbacks are there, but Tyler Shuck to Louisville happened almost as soon as the portal opened, and that's the one thing I think where like Jeff Brown will get the most out of Tyler Shuck. He can only get the most out of him while he's healthy.
No, I mean, it's crazy, too, because if you look at Louisville traditionally when they started getting really good, they were getting freak athletes at quarterback and dominating. They were recruiting the hell out of Florida and bringing guys up there. Now, it's going to be interesting to see. I think Brom will eventually do that. I thought Plummer did a pretty good job last year, but I think Will Howard would have been a perfect fit for Louisville. I think he would have been ideally the perfect guy to fit in that scheme.
Like, what if they had waited?
Yeah.
Just waited a little bit.
That's what you could have done. I think that, like, going out there, getting Shuck when you did, I understand that at the moment, like, you're needing a quarterback, but at the same time, maybe – and look, there still has an opportunity – when the next cycle opens up in the portal, you can still grab another quarterback. I think they probably will. I don't know exactly what their depth chart looks like and what the younger guys they have coming up are. Obviously, they have to have a couple of them in the can that they feel comfortable about. But you got to feel like if you're Louisville and you're Brom, that you have a lot of confidence in being able to win with average quarterback play, kind of like Michigan did last year, not necessarily on that scale, and just work on your playmakers around you to let your offense explode and then just rely on your defense because Shuck, I mean, that's going to be difficult to win many games in the ACC, especially going up against like Clemson and Florida State. When you get in those big games and he's not the dude at quarterback, that's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, if he's got to play, and I feel the same way about Tyler Shuck that I do about Alan Bowman.
And even Malik Murphy. Like Malik Murphy going to Duke. Like that's,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a big deal. Like, I feel like, and here's how I feel about Alan Bowman in that, like, look, he finally made it through a year healthy. Like, that's great. And he got it done. He got to the Big 12 title game. But, I mean, are you really banking on that to happen 2 years in a row? That's what concerns me about Oklahoma State. It's the same thing that concerns me about Louisville is that, not been durable. Just has not been durable. And, look, and with Tyler Shuck, I can see where maybe Jeff Brom has rationalized it to every single quarterback that has played at Texas Tech the last 2 years has gotten hurt.
Correct.
So that is not necessarily a problem with the quarterbacks. That's a problem with their blocking scheme and their offensive line. On a sidebar, if I'm Joey McGuire at Texas Tech, that is the number one thing I'm thinking. Even over defensive struggles, I'm trying to keep I want my same quarterback to start at least 11 games next year.
Yeah, that's definitely been an issue.
But yeah, I see how you do that. But the problem is that Tyler Shuck's been hurt. He was hurt at Oregon, and he was hurt at Tech. So it's not just that.
I would even say sticking with Tech and their offensive line woes. Even when he was in there, you saw he wasn't nowhere near as confident in the pocket or consistent as Baron freaking Morton. So I mean, you could use that and you could say the offensive line at Tech, but given the same circumstances, he wasn't as good as a younger guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but. All right, so before we go to the last segment, we do need to address the fact that Ole Miss, I think, has quantity and quality done the best job. They absolutely have. Now, I maybe on the rankings, Tyler Barron, that number flipped 1 and 3. Colorado's number 2 right now, and I'm sure that they've got really good. They do have some really good players coming in and better players than they had last year. But let's wait and see before. Let's wait and see how they put all that together. Because, again, the teams that win, with the portal and with recruiting are the ones who are doing both equally. And Colorado hasn't had enough recruiting classes in there to balance that out. It's all been mostly transfer portal and 1 or now 2 recruiting classes.
I mean, it would probably have to be about 3 or 4 recruiting classes before
to get you right in the sweet spot of where it's working. I mean, I would say 2, depends how good you do it, right? But which is what Louisville's going to probably run up against. Is yes, it's all in the portal. Let's see how your recruits do, the guys that develop and stay in your system and don't get in the portal. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the key in modern. But this past weekend, they picked up Trey Amos from Alabama, Brandon Tunage from Tennessee, Ashim Young, he left. Amorian Walker from Michigan, Yam Banks comes in from South Alabama. So that's just this week. That's just this weekend. Mm-hmm. They have been killing it, and they are going for it. Walter Nolan, Princely Umanmian, all those guys. They have been absolutely killing it. Can they get over the finish line? And what's going to be a very, very tough SEC, but it has worked out for them. And look, Lane Kiffin's killing it, and Nick Saban's gone. So now really you've got to worry about Brian Kelly, who you beat last year, but it had to be an epic throwdown.
Yes.
And Georgia, who absolutely handed it to you.
Well, I think when you look at Ole Miss last year, their problem wasn't offense. They were putting up ridiculous numbers, and I think that you'll see a dip obviously with Quinshawn, but I think Jackson Dart he's good enough to win with his arm, and given the players that they brought in, I've been more impressed with how he's managed the portal on defense because the guys that he stacked up there, especially in the trenches, I think that's where he really learned last year. Ole Miss was almost there, but when you went up against the big boys, you were getting pushed around a little much. And I think you even saw that against A&M. That game against A&M was dominating them in the trenches, and it took some fluky trick plays for them to get the dub over the Aggies last year. So I like Lane Kiffin. He's grown on me. I would like to see him win. But at the same time, I need to see it with him. You can go and get all the people in the world, but if you can't make it mesh and put it together, like Lincoln Riley, like we saw out there with USC, they crushed the portal last year on the defensive side, but it still wasn't enough to overcome your flaws from a coaching standpoint. So is that where Ole Miss is at? That's what I'm waiting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, when we come back, we'll do a quick NFL playoff recap, and then we'll be done for the day until the main show. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Garrett, we have to get the bad news out of the way first when it comes to you and me and these NFL playoffs.
Okay.
Now, as fans, and in very different ways, the only two teams who have not made the NFC Championship game this century are Washington and Dallas.
Yep.
Now, Washington has done it by absolutely being the wet newspaper of NFL franchises.
God awful.
Just terrible. And the Cowboys have done it by being as good as you possibly can be several times in the regular season, many times in the regular season, and then just losing in the playoffs in the most disappointing ways possible.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So whether it's getting blown out by Green Bay or the Vikings, or the loss to the Giants in 2007, or beating Tom Brady in his last game ever, and then going to play the 49ers and getting absolutely just like body blow after body blow, like physically beaten to this. I mean, there's so many different kinds.
Yes.
So many different ways. Tony Romo dropping a snap against Seattle on the field goal. Those kind of things. Washington doesn't really have any of that. They have RG3 getting to the playoffs and then getting hurt. That's about their only really. That's the only maybe we'd have been close.
When Dallas lost, I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of, because I want to see it at some point, even as a Washington fan. I finally want to see.
I want to see Washington there.
I know. I just want to see it. It's good for the league. Okay.
Yeah, I want to see. Look, it's I know people do not believe me when I say this, but I really do. In my 40s now, have a perspective, and it's maybe nostalgia, but. When it comes to Florida State and the other two, look, I'm not going to cry a lot of tears that Miami and Florida are on the struggle bus right now. But I will admit that it was way more fun when everybody was good.
Awesome. Yes.
So just as a Cowboys fan, I can tell you it's way more fun. Look, the 90s NFC East where all four teams were good all the time, that was fun. This is not fun. No, this is boring, this is lame and repetitive, and I would like to get out of this reality
At least
and into another
got
one.
some hope. At least there's some new blood.
Yeah. I don't know, the Cowboys are locked in being the same. They're never going to be long-term bad enough to stack the draft picks.
No, they're stuck in a mediocrity. Yeah. I don't know.
They have to be very clever and strategic with who they draft, because most of the time they're going to be a good team, but not a great team.
Yes.
And so because they're good and they beat most everybody else, they're going to have that lower draft pick. And right now it's 24. Mm-hmm. So they're in the bottom 8 of the draft, which is fine. You can get great players in that spot, but you have to be really good at that. And I say that as a congratulations to the Detroit gosh darn Lions, who are in the NFC Championship. And you want to talk about a fan base who's earned it? Those people, especially the ones like that guy they keep showing that's been to every Lions game for the last 50 years or whatever it is, that guy's earned it. Those people have earned it. They've stuck by their team. Good for you, Eminem. You know, I know
I
it's.
felt like a Lions fan yesterday rooting for them. It was so awesome.
It was really great.
Man.
Like when they won that game, and like it was so loud the whole time, but the eruption for when like it was like, you know, the last play was amazing.
Yes.
And I hate it because I really like Baker Mayfield.
I like Baker too.
Yeah.
But
So
it means something for Detroit though.
it just meant something for that. And so also like I think there's no better match of human being and city than Baker Mayfield in Tampa. There's not.
I can
Like,
see that match.
He's totally
well.
the Tampa of quarterbacks. Like, keep him. It's going to work out well. Cleveland was not a Baker Mayfield town.
No.
Tampa, Florida, believe me,
it definitely has
is a
some vibes.
total Baker Mayfield town. You know how many guys I knew in Tampa that were exactly like Baker Mayfield?
Probably about most of them.
Yes. Yes. But I really am thrilled for the Lions. I think it's great. I don't know how, like, I'm not one of those people who like roots for the team that beat you. So like when the Packers lost and Jack is out sick today because
the Packers lost.
I'm sure like that will get you. But yeah, the Packers lost. The 49ers have just been that team all year, save for a little minor stretch where they were not playing well. But they're just that good, and they're going to get to play at home. But I really do like to see the Lions in the Super Bowl in my lifetime would be amazing.
Dude, I would love that. I want, like, right now, if I'm looking at the teams, I would love to see Detroit, Baltimore. I think that would be so awesome to have that Super Bowl. It would be fun. But yeah, I mean, Dan Campbell, dude, like going back in that whole coming in the press conference and biting the knees and like that really works. Like people, like he seems like fun as hell to play for.
Yeah, he does. He cares. Like he's intense. He takes chances. He's a fun coach. Like I'll just say this. I remember when I heard it, and like I have the best man at my wedding, Ryan. He's a huge Lions fan. He's so happy. But he was like, this guy sounds like an idiot. I'm like, no, I mean, like, here's the thing. You don't hear NFL coaches sound like this because that's what high school coaches sound like. And like college and NFL coaches have become so, for the most part, which is why we kind of like Lane Kiffin, right?
They're robotic.
They're robotic and they're polished and they're they're sanitized because there's so much scrutiny on them. You can't really, and then you hear these things like, well, this guy's really like this behind the scenes. And you're like, well, I just wish I could see that more. Yeah. And I understand why they don't, because everything can get misinterpreted.
Line.
Yeah. You know, which is why I like Deion. Deion's not two ways. Deion's Deion. Like, I respect that like, there's not two Deions. Mm-hmm. There's not microphone Deion and practice Deion. So, yeah, Paxton says, love some Dan Campbell. Dallas should have hired him. I would have loved that. He was a former Dallas player and
from
assistant.
Glen Rose, I mean, down the road.
Yeah, he's from Clifton and Grant. Like, yeah, I think grew up in Granbury or whatever.
Glen Rose.
Glen Rose, yeah, Glen Rose, yeah. So he was born in Clifton, grew up in Glen Rose. Like, yeah, but yeah, it is just. But people don't hear coaches talk like that much,
right? And
so they assume it's corny, but some of the best high school coaches that I know are just like Dan Campbell. And that's not a knock on Dan Campbell. That's a compliment to the high school coaches because they know how to get the most out of their players.
Listen to Joey McGuire talk.
Jeff Traylor.
It's the same thing.
Like those guys. Like, yes, that stuff works. Being genuine works. I think Bill Belichick's pretty genuine. He's just this way.
You know what you're going to get with him, yeah.
You know what you're going to get. Look, Jim Harbaugh, I don't really know, but like I know his players really respect him. But Dan Campbell is so unique that like I think that's like that style work. And that's also Detroit was also hiring guys who were very antiseptic. They were trying to let's make it through this way, and they needed somebody in there that absolutely could not have cared less about the history of the Lions. Basically, they could convince the owner, look, just let's get in lockstep, the GM, you and me, let's get in lockstep, let's believe that we can do this. Nothing that's happened before the day I got here matters, because it only matters what team we build now. We can't win in 1992 anymore. We can only win today, and that's, I think, been a really cool thing to see with the Lions. They're really fun to watch. They're really, like, you know, they've got a lot of cool, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown's fun to watch. Jameer Gibbs was, Hutchinson. Like, but, like, they had this, look, their draft with Sam Laporta, Jameer Gibbs,
Great give.
And Brian Branch all playing all really well. And Bernard, they picked Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. People are like, psh, idiots.
No, that was
They're like,
great
nope. Nope. Great pick. Great pick. Huge part of that game yesterday. They are fun to watch. So we'll see. That'll be a great game. And look, we get the two best quarterbacks in the league right now are Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, and they're playing each other. I think the world of NFL fans would like to see the Chiefs suffer a little because it's been so repetitive, but you do have to recognize
you gotta respect it,
how
point.
they figured out a way through playing really bad for most of the year this year. Not up to their standard, dropping passes, being sloppy on offense. But man, like they're just who they are. But going to the bank, that's going to be tough. That's going to be so tough. And
I know all the talk this week was Patrick Mahomes going for on the road for the first time in the playoffs. It did good. Solid.
Yeah.
Can he go in? Like, is there any does that matter at this point, like going on the road again if you're him? Or are they just so good, you're well coached, you've been here, you have the experience in the moment, like you just ride that wave into Baltimore?
Yeah, maybe you do. But I will say this. I am really hoping for Lamar Jackson to get to the Super Bowl because everybody questioned him.
He bet on himself.
Not only that, he bet on himself hard, and he pushed the Ravens, a really good organization who almost made a really bad decision, to the limit to get it done, and they got it done. But also, like, there were, I think, Atlanta, Washington, and one other team I'm not thinking of that all needed quarterbacks, and all were like, well, we don't know if we want Lamar Jackson. And then, I get Washington not doing it because they were in the ownership transition, and you don't it's hard to be like, oh yeah, we traded 5 draft picks for Lamar Jackson, and I get even though let's be real, if you could have done it, you could figure it out.
Yeah, because I mean, you're more likely going to draft one this year. That's not a guarantee.
Yeah, that's not Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
Atlanta rolled the dice with Desmond Ridder, and we saw what happened. The coach got all these things. The one I could not believe was Atlanta. I thought Atlanta, I'm like, guys, just go get him.
Get him in a dome, too?
Just go get him. You wouldn't have Bijan Robinson, but you wouldn't really need him anymore because you've got Lamar Jackson. Yeah, in a dome. In
a dome with Lamar?
Yeah.
Kidding me?
So that means he's going to play probably 12 to 13 games a year in a dome. So, yeah, that's just at least 10. The majority of the games he's going to play inside.
And you've already seen it with Vic. You knew what it could have been.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, Vic only got, honestly, and I believe this, I mean, the injury was bad, but he got derailed by bad decisions more than the injury.
Yes, he did.
So, yeah, you could have had that. But for Lamar Jackson to make it to the Super Bowl when he had this world full of doubters would be really awesome. Mm-hmm. Really. And to beat Mahomes to do it, I feel terrible for Buffalo fans as a fellow wide right sufferer.
I literally thought of you. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, look, Seminole fans and Bills fans, we have a collective pain that is wide right.
Yes.
I don't know what the butterfly effect would have been on the universe had Scott Norwood's field goal gone in.
Did you see the Bills fan with the Scott Norwood jersey where everything's...
Yeah. So, and Tyler Bass, I feel terrible for him.
You almost knew that was coming. It was so, the way that whole drive was going.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing is, you don't beat Patrick Mahomes with field goals.
No.
You beat Patrick Mahomes with touchdowns.
Yes.
You don't beat him with paper cuts. You can't do that. You have to just club the seal, man.
Yes.
You can't just let him keep coming back. They're the Chiefs are like zombies. There's only one way to get rid of them.
Away.
You got it. Otherwise, it's just oh, look, Travis, his hands fell off. Oh, okay, he's not oh, look, he's back up and catching touchdowns. So, yeah. Also,
Jason Kelsey, come on. He's the man of the...
Brother goals right there.
Love that dude.
Brother goals right there.
Like a wild animal.
And here's the thing, to jump out of the box and go chug beers with the Buffalo fans, you can't even as the most dyed-in-the-wool Buffalo fans hate on that now.
No.
That guy, oh yeah, no. I know Jason Kelsey probably going to retire. Like, it's not official yet, but he's going to retire.
Oh, it is. He retired.
Well, no, he said on the podcast that he
okay.
hasn't made, like, he didn't want to make the decision in the moment. Like, but it made it sound like, look, I just want to make sure that I'm in the right, here. But I know that somebody's going to put him in the studio or in the booth. I don't think that that's what they need to do. I think somebody needs to hire Jason Kelsey to be a man of the people.
Yes, like a brand ambassador or something.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I think they're doing wrong with Gronk. They've got Gronk in the studio.
Yeah, that don't work.
And that's like...
That's odd.
It's like keeping a golden retriever inside all day. Like...
Well played.
Just going to get bored.
Yeah,
like,
well played.
He might want to come in and lay down and cuddle with you, but... You know what? Like a couple hours a day, you gotta let him out in the backyard. Take him for a walk. Let him run around.
Yeah.
Like that's what that's what Fox is doing wrong with Gronk. They're trying to make Gronk into this studio. Like
no, you need to put him like
no,
out with
he's
the
got to
people.
be out. Jason Kelsey, like they need to be out. Like seriously, just be out. Like let him mix it up with the fans. Like those kind of things. Hire me. Listen, hire me as your producer. I'll tell you where these people need to be. Look, like if I went to CBS, I'd be like, listen, Phil, you can be in charge of this little one segment we're going to give you, and then nothing else.
I mean, all you would have to do is literally do what Game Day did with McAfee at first or whatever.
Yes.
Just let him go out with the populace. Now, I know you probably you would be cautious with FCC or somebody, but just... You're going to swallow it. You're damn NFL. You got so much money.
Let those guys run.
Exactly. Let it be its own
It's
thing.
a new era. There's all these other avenues. Let them run. Like, absolutely let them run. I think they need to do that. And I think Jason Kelsey showed it. And, like, again, they're doing it wrong. Like, Gronk does all these, like, promotions and things. That are, like, the thing he's doing with FanDuel. Really
the
cool.
kick
Like,
and all that,
all those things are cool. That was what he needs to be.
Yes.
Like, he's just, like, in the studio. I just feel like that's not...
Well, I mean, the chemistry's off, too, because it just gets thrown around, because they're used to doing it, and then you, like, go to Gronk. And yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, let him out. Again.
Get rid of Tony Romo. I can't stand listening to that dude called
Oh,
games.
I enjoy
hate that
Tony
guy.
Romo, but...
Ruined
Oh,
my
Jim. Jim.
Ugh, I can't stand it.
Amanda said the same thing yesterday.
Tell you, it makes me nauseous.
And I said, well, at least he's not your quarterback. Oh. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, she goes, I thought you liked Tony Romo. I'm like, I like Tony Romo. But the times when he was the Cowboys quarterback was...
The turnovers.
He's a walking ulcer. Like, that's what it was. Like, I know, like, you're so much fun, but oh my God. It hurts. All right, this afternoon, we got Pete Nakos from On3 to talk transfer portal. We got Jake Spavital, Baylor offensive coordinator, talks about building what's going to be a whole new system that none of these guys have, well, at least Ashton Hawkins has, but only one of the guys has ever really played in. DeQuan Finn's probably played in one like it,
pretty
but
similar.
Building a whole new offense pretty much from scratch for this team as he comes into Baylor. We'll also have Evan Miyakawa. He'll talk college basketball with us and break down the numbers. And I believe... What?
Dan Hope, too.
And Dan Hope from 11 Warriors going through Ohio State's, like an Ocean's 11-like haul.
It's ridiculous.
They honestly, look, they've robbed from Alabama. They've robbed from, let's see, who else did they get? Like, they've robbed from, like, the big three casinos, right?
Yes.
Like, that's what they've done. They got them all. All right, this is the Triple Option on 365 Sports. We're back here tomorrow. See you then, everybody.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed